I'll take even the Ireland loss as very seriously, Suman, because I think it all started from there, and then I think England, such a strong side, especially in their home conditions. They piled on the on India's misery by their brilliant performance. I think what India lacked was our planning in terms of the ground conditions and the ground dimensions in mind. I don't think we were prepared, or we had proper plans to beat Ireland and England in these conditions. I think that's where we faltered. And even after losing the first two T20Is, we did not learn anything. The bowling plans, the batting plans, they were all not in a good position at all. And I think that's the reason why we had to suffer such big losses. But you see, Suman, after such a big loss, the margin of defeat has been massive. No one can abdicate the responsibility. So not only the support staff, including Gautam Gambhir, but also the captain and the vice captain. I think these people are the think tank of the Indian side, more so when you're traveling outside India. And then there are the selectors also. I'm sure that a couple of the selectors were present during this series. So I think everybody put together, they failed to understand and prepare plans accordingly to beat England. We just felt that whatever we have done in the past, especially in home conditions, the World Cup win, we did not look ahead as to what are the areas where we need to plan better and on how to defeat England and Ireland in those conditions. We failed to put our heads together to prepare good plans in order to beat Ireland and England. I think that's where we lack that kind of intense planning.
Some thoughtful changes.
Well, not really. Once you have picked the 15, then you have very limited options available, and you possibly can't be dropping players after each and every loss. So I think there was continuity, but I think the fact remains that whatever options you had or whatever resources we had, I did not see the optimum utilization of those resources. So, for instance, if you have Tilak Varma in that game, why was he pushed down the order? Then Harshit Rana, I think in one game was pushed up the order ahead of even Shivam Dube. What was your thought process? And I think in the fourth T20I, Shivam Dube was promoted ahead of Tilak Varma when India had lost 3 wickets. So what was the whole idea behind that? And I think overall, if you look at the bowling plans of the Irish team and even the England side, they kept bowling short to us. And even in the power play, they had one deep point and they had one deep square leg. So we did not have any alternative plans to negate that. And we succumbed to similar kind of dismissals over the past 4 or 5 games that India has played. So it just goes to show not only as a team, but I think individual batters also should have prepared much better, and they should have made better batting plans against this kind of bowling attack or this kind of bowling plans. So I think India was unable to react in a better manner against Ireland as well as England. And I also feel that T20 format is a very fast evolving format. It is the most rapidly changing format. So I think in order to be ahead of the opposition, you need to keep looking at making plans that will always help you to remain ahead of the opposition. I think India was slightly like a bicycle in their approach and in their planning in this T20 international series. Yeah, that's what I'm alluding to, Suman. Because if you know that the pace bowlers are trying to bowl short deliveries to you, and the max, both Josh Tongue and Jofra Archer, I'm only limiting our discussion to this England T20 series. When you know that both of these bowlers are trying to pepper you with short pitch deliveries, you need to have some other plans. And I think India failed to do that. Now, what about strike rotation? What about giving strike to your partner? What about running hard? What about using the ground dimensions? I mean, that's what England did, and I think once India lost 2-3 quick wickets in the power play, we had very little mm, uh, resources to accelerate. And I think in T20 format, especially this time around, I just felt that we are slightly behind the curve. Otherwise, over the past 2-3 years, since we won the 2024 World Cup, India is the one who has led the way to for the other nations as to how to play T20 cricket. This is the first time when I felt that we are slightly behind. Yeah, there are a combination of factors. I think I mean, if you look at our bowling resources, without Jasprit Bumrah and Hardik Pandya, we're still trying to find a batting all-rounder. We've been unable to do that. Then the role of the three spinners whom we had in the side, that should come under scrutiny. Varun Chakravarti over the past, I think, 8 to 9 T20 internationals has not done well, especially in conditions where the ball does not grip. The batters I have been able to easily line him up and play the big shots. That puts him under a lot of pressure. Ravi Bishnoi, being an attacking spinner, he only played one T20 international and then was dropped after that. So any young bowler will have one such game. But if you have invested in him, if you have picked him in the 15, then there was a strong case of making Ravi Bishnoi play at least 2 or 3 games before dropping him. Akshar Patel, on the other hand, except for one game, if I remember correctly, the English batters took him apart quite easily. So there are several areas where India needs to concentrate now and try and improve. And I think that's what this churning is all about. This gap of 2 years before the next World Cup comes up, I think India should always try and look for resources that can help you make a better side or make a much better, a more balanced side that can do well in foreign conditions. So this is obviously not a very good position to be in. I think India made a lot of corrections because of the mistakes that they've done in the past. For instance, there was no reason for Sanju Samson to be dropped after three T20 internationals. So he played 2 games in Ireland. He played only one game in England, and someone who's been player of the series in the recently concluded World Cup T20. That was not correct in my opinion. So they brought in Vaibhav Suryavanshi, and because he did not score in the first in those three T20 games that he played, then again you had to go back to Sanju Samson. And the Indian selectors have done that in the past. Even before the World Cup, Sanju Samson was dropped, then he was brought back into the side. Same thing they have done with Shubman Gill. So it just reflects that there is lack of clarity in terms of decision making, in terms of how to back a player and to what extent you are supposed to back a player. So these are things which need some more introspection from the selectors also, and I think India has faltered because of all that. I also feel that you need to have a conducive environment that the players feel far more secure and they go out and play in a fearless manner, which is required in a T20 format. But as I said, this is such a series which should help India to learn not only as a team but also the selection committee as to where what happened that India had to suffer this kind of defeat against England and before that against Ireland. So there are a number of areas to be worked on. As I said, I don't think the first decision of dropping Sanju Samson was correct. And once you have already tried out Vaibhav Suryavanshi, oh well, because he's a youngster, you can still understand. He will get many more chances in the future. But I hope that this omission of Vaibhav Suryavanshi is handled well by the team management and by the selectors so that his confidence is not dented. And that's what I hope for, Suman. But overall, there is a lot of work to be done. There needs to be far more clarity in our selection policies. So that all the players feel that the same kind of benchmark is being set for all the players in the 15. Well, whatever has happened in the past, I would not like to comment on that. But I think after this kind of a series loss, there has to be a proper analysis. And I think all those people who have been given this responsibility should be called and have a meeting and then try and take the best decision forward. Whenever a team goes through this kind of a defeat, then there are several positions whose roles come under scrutiny, and I think that's what should happen now. Now, what is the decision to be taken? That can only be speculated at this stage. But I think over the past, except for our World Cup win and before that the Champions Trophy win, India's track record in Test matches, home series has not been very good. We have never lost 3-0 to New Zealand and then 2-0 to South Africa at home, and after that this huge series loss first to Ireland and then to England that needs to be um, discussed openly, and then some proper decisions need to be taken. I hope that once you have invested in a captain like Shreyas Iyer, you continue to give him more support and to back him. But I also feel that that the time is right now for Shreyas Iyer to try and assert himself in terms of planning, in terms of resources, in terms of the kind of vision you have. Because eventually we have seen that. I mean, look at the kind of legacy that Virat Kohli before that, MS, and then Rohit Sharma, and also to a large extent even Surya Kumar Yadav had left behind. And I think that's where Shreyas Iyer's role also comes into the picture. It is up to him now to lead the team forward and to have the right resources under him. So I think all these two three people, including the selection committee plus the head coach and Shreyas Iyer, they need to sit together and work out a vision that will help India to get back on tracks and to become once again a strong contender to win the World Cup, which is 2 years down the line, or before that, the Olympics. No, I mean that's the call taken by BCCI, Suman. Owning responsibility is a different matter altogether. But I think such decisions are always taken by the selectors and by BCCI. The head coach and the support staff is appointed by BCCI. That is why I said before this that I'm sure, and there is some speculation in the press also that BCCI will call for a meeting where all these individuals or all such people who are given this responsibility will be invited and they will have a discussion. Now, what kind of steps BCCI will take, that we can only speculate. But owning responsibility, for that matter, even Shreyas Iyer has owned up the responsibility that yes, we are behind in terms of planning. We were not well prepared, keeping in mind the ground dimensions and the playing conditions in Ireland and in England. So I think the next step, what can be conducive or which will be productive for the Indian side, that's a call to be taken by BCCI and all those people who are in charge of taking such decisions. I mean that is the first thing. If there is a need, because the selectors' tenures are there for 5 years in totality, and it's renewed each year. So that is the call that is to be taken by BCCI when the time comes. But do we put all the responsibility on the selectors? Because the players who have picked out of this, I think 7 or 8 of them were part of the World Cup team, World Cup winning side, and there are only 2 or 3 changes, and on top of that, 2 were a forced change because of Jasprit Bumrah and Hardik Pandya. That is what is expected. But if it has not happened, that's the reason why. I mean, that is why BCCI needs to find the reason as to what went wrong. That is why this kind of a discussion and a meeting is required, and only then you can, once you start to address that there are certain issues due to which India lost. Only then one can step ahead and take some positive steps forward. Otherwise, all these things, it has happened in the past, are brushed under the carpet. So I think one needs to step forward or to step ahead and to become a much better side. You need to analyze, you need to introspect, you need to address issues and concerns, and only then one can take positive steps ahead.